President Trump publicly distancing himself from Steve Bannon, his chief strategist. Let's discuss now two men who worked for Bannon's Breitbart News. Lee Stranahan was a reporter there, and Kurt Bardella resigned as Breitbart spokesman. Good evening, gentlemen. So good to have you on. I wanted to talk to you both because there's an interesting political article. It's out today, and here's what it asks. If Trump fired Bannon, would he seek revenge? You both worked at Breitbart. I'd like to know what you think. Kurt, you were actually interviewed for this piece, so you first.
Absolutely he will. He will, I think, unleash the dogs of war on those who he believes have put him in this position, to be ousted, to be falling out of favor with President Trump. It's not that he'll necessarily go right after Donald Trump. I think that he will target the advisors who will fill that power void that Steve is leaving behind. And you'll start seeing, what we saw a couple weeks ago, which was 4 stories in one day about Jared Kushner on the homepage of Breitbart News. I think you'll see a lot of that if Steve leaves and is moved out.
Lee, what do you think?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, look, if there's anybody they should worry about with revenge, it's probably Jared Kushner himself. What we know, for instance, is Jared Kushner's father was prosecuted a few years ago. He was a big Democratic donor, and he actually blackmailed his own sister's husband to avoid an investigation. And the prosecutor on that case was Chris Christie. And multiple reports said that the reason Chris Christie was sort of moved out of a, consideration in the administration was Jared Kushner seeking revenge. Now, obviously, I can't speak to that. I'll tell you what,
how would that affect the administration? What would that have to do with anything?
Well, what I'm saying, all I'm saying is that's who I think, if you're going to worry about revenge, there's already been those stories coming out about Kushner. I think in the case of Steve Bannon, Steve is a
wait, hang on, Lee. I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to get to understand what you're saying. When you're speaking of Bannon, you're talking about Breitbart, which is a huge platform, which is also the alt-right, but you have another word for it. What did you say the last time you were on?
Well, it's the anti-establishment. It's the anti-establishment.
Okay, fine.
I've never used the term alt-right. Nobody I know
that's fine.
Breitbart.
I don't want to argue about that. I don't want to argue about that, but I'm just wondering how would Jared Kushner exact revenge from his father-in-law?
What I'm saying is there was a case where Chris Christie was being considered for the administration. And because Chris Christie was the one who prosecuted Jared Kushner's father, does that make sense?
What does this have to do with Steve Bannon?
I don't understand what that has to do with Steve Bannon or what that has to do with exacting revenge from the administration. Jared Kushner or his father, they don't have a platform like Breitbart to exact revenge from the administration.
And Breitbart has a long history of going after people that they don't like. I mean, they target people left and right, from consultants to politicians to establishment figures.
Let him finish, Kurt.
Here's what I'm saying. In a sense, I feel this is targeting Bannon. What you're doing right now is targeting Bannon in the sense you're asking the question, will he seek revenge? Well, it's sort of a loaded question.
I was citing a political article.
No. I'm not accusing you of doing anything. I'm saying the question itself is loaded, right? And what I'm saying is there's already someone who's been accused. Anybody can Google this. If they Jared Kushner revenge Chris Christie, they'll find multiple articles that talk about that. Steve Bannon is not a guy who's out for vengeance. But Steve has an ideology, he has something he believes in, which is what Donald Trump ran on, which is this idea of an anti-elitist, anti-establishment, populist nationalism. In other words, an anti-elitism. And will Steve Bannon still have that agenda, whether he's working for Donald Trump or not? Of course he will.
Okay.
Of course he will.
But don't you think...
Go ahead. Kurt, is that part of the retaliation there? Are we seeing the first part of it if it does happen?
I mean, I think the thing here is, if Steve's moved out and Donald Trump starts veering to the center and abandoning the promises that he made to the base that got him elected, to the base that carried him through the primary, I think that Steve will be very instrumental in certainly highlighting that every day in the pages of Breitbart and then directing the blame at why Trump has turned on those promises at the people that are running the show. Jared Kushner, Gary Cohn, the so-called West Wing Democrats that he calls them privately behind the scenes. Like, I think that you're going to see on the pages of Breitbart and throughout the conservative alt-right media a lot of pointed fingers at this is why Trump is not the person that you voted for. This is why he's changed course and direction. It's their fault, and you should blame them for it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how you could think that wouldn't happen.
Here's what it is. I wouldn't call that revenge. Here's what you're describing. You're describing holding a candidate accountable for the promises he made. Well, that seems like what journalism should do, is hold a candidate, any candidate, whether it's Barack Obama or Donald Trump. Journalism, right, should hold people accountable. That's not revenge. That's simply saying.
No, I hear what you're saying there. I hear what you're saying there.
To Lee's point, I think Lee is. Hold on, Kurt. I think Lee is right on this. Is that he does? Shouldn't he have a certain allegiance to the people who helped get him elected, and many of those people are Breitbart readers.
Sure, and I think the one thing though that's differentiating is right now Breitbart's holding their fire. You know, there was that story that Breitbart was told, hey, don't do anything about Kushner. They went dark on him after doing 4 or 5 stories on him in one day. And it's not.
I'll let you respond. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
It's not journalistic when one day you decide to do it, the next day it's politically not helping your guy, so you stop doing it, and then when he's on the outs and you want to start going after him, you do it again.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Lee.
Well, I was not working at Breitbart when the decision was made, but I'll tell you, I wish Breitbart was doing a better job, quite frankly, of explaining to their readers who Dina Powell is, who Gary Cohn is, for instance, and why they are people who are completely antithetical to the agenda that Donald Trump ran on. That's responsible journalism. And quite frankly, first off, I spoke to a couple people inside Breitbart. I wasn't working there. But they told me Breitbart was pulling their punches, had nothing to do with Steve. Steve was not directing it. I'd never heard that from anybody. That's conjecture. And what I'm saying is, all I'm saying is, to call journalism revenge strikes me as a little odd. When Barack Obama, for instance, ran on a platform, he was against the individual mandate. Then he flipped. I was writing about it at the Huffington Post. I called him on it. It wasn't revenge. It's simply calling him out on it. Now, the idea that somehow Steve Bannon is going to change his ideology with the win, and by the way, this is not to say that he's not practical. In other words, the perfect in politics is often the enemy of the good, right? So I think Steve's willing to make deals and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think he will hold firm to the ideology of
I'm running out of time, Lee. So I want to get Kurt. Kurt, I just want to get your response to this because this is attributed to the New York Times. Trump mega donor Rebecca Mercer, Bannon's chief patron, spent much of Friday, this is a quote, at the offices of Cambridge Analytica exploring potential gigs for Bannon should he be fired. Where do you think he would end up? Do you believe that?
Oh, absolutely. I believe that she's been her the Breitbart benefactor, the Bannon benefactor. They funded pretty much every enterprise that Steve has been attached to. So they want him to land somewhere where he can still try to have some influence over the political process, some influence over Trump. Maybe it's a super PAC, maybe it's some sort of 501c3 political action effort.
Okay.
But again, just real quick to Lee's thing. It's selective, and it's revenge when you impose it selectively based on political convenience.
Okay, I'm out of time. Great conversation. Thank you both. Have a great weekend. We'll be right back.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back.